It's time. You've got everything prepared. The setting, the plot, the encounters, the loot, but the players, they've gone in a completely different direction. What am I gonna do? Don't sweat it. Watch this video, I'll show you what to do. Hey everyone, welcome to Dungeon Bits, and this video is about helping you think better on your feet, improvising. So, here's what we're going to be covering today. Improvising plot, improvising content, and improvising dialogue. So, let's say that you faced a problem I mentioned before. The players aren't following your planned content. They've sped off in a random direction instead. Well, old bean, it's time to improvise. And let's start with the big one, improvising plot. And this can feel super scary at first because you can't rely on your notes to help you. But, to go in a direction that you might not have expected, do you need notes at all? Listen, can I be frank for a minute? That was weird. You're probably approaching this whole plot thing from ideas absorbed from other content creators or memes, but not every TTRPG you run requires a prepared plot in your notes to follow. It entirely depends on what you want. Do you want to run a truly open world game, or are you running a module? Because if you're running a module, then you can ask your players to keep on track, ask them to reschedule so you can plan for where they want to go, or move the plot in front of them. Whatever direction they pick, just move it over there. There's a good way to use railroading, but if you want not only the player actions, but the player choices to be crucial and to really be up to them, then you're going to have to improvise a lot, which is good and fine. Unless you plan to keep your players on a railroad, every session of your TTRPG has improv. If you run a game at least once, congrats! You've proved to yourself that you can improvise. Because there is a way of running the game called Emergent storytelling, which basically means that the GM doesn't prepare a story and just makes the whole thing up on the spot as they go. Dungeon World is a great example of this, and solo TTRPGs like 1000-Year-Old Vampire are games that don't have a prepared story. The story just emerges. As I say, it sounds scary, but really, if you don't want to go into a session completely empty-handed, all you need to know is enough about your setting. Who is the villain, and what conflicts are happening in the background in your world. Here's a fun exercise for you. Let's say that next session I just join your campaign, I show up, I peel myself off the walls like a fungus or something, and somehow I manage to convince the entire party that we should go east. What's to the east? If you can answer that question to a very basic degree, you can improv the entire session. Don't believe me? No matter where your players go, just think, okay, they went east instead of west, that's fine. The east, the towns are in fear of the vampires that come around every other night, so what if I have the players encounter a pack of supernaturally feral wolves, or a band of terrified traders transporting mountains of garlic bread, or a travelling priest who asks them for protection on the road because he's been hired to bless the town. Your job isn't to sit there constantly feeding your players prompts to answer yes or no to. Talk less, trust yourself, and let your players ask questions about what is around them, and then tell them. And you might be sitting there thinking, okay, yeah, that's all well and good you saying I don't need notes, but how do I improvise? Well, what you can do is wait for your players to take interest in a detail that you tell them. Then, let them follow that detail. Let them ask questions and add more detail as you go. If they just stumble upon a town that you haven't prepared for, you could say, everyone seems to be rushing around and they don't make eye contact with you, and there's more guards than you'd expect. You're basically telling them the town seems scared, and the players will hear that and want to investigate. Boom! You have a plot. Place a prompt as simple as fear, and away you go. In sandbox games, as in go anywhere, do anything sort of games, your players are the plot. Let your players guide the direction, and you can sit and be the problems they face and the things they see. Because if you haven't realised it yet, that's just what GMing is. Hopefully hearing that, you'll feel confident enough to run your session even if it goes off the rails. Rely on what you know about the world, and let the players explore. Or just make it up. Now, let's zoom in from the plot to the content. What specific things they find as they explore. And when I say improvising content, I mean NPCs, items, monsters, encounters, etc. Also, before I go on, After you watch this video, I would highly recommend that you watch this video that I made because it teaches you how to take anything that you make and make it more interesting. The whole video basically explains how you can improvise literally any content and make it more interesting when you make it up. Or use it in prep, either way. But maybe you're just starting out, you don't feel confident enough still, or you would like to see some ideas. Well, there are a bunch of tools online to help you. Asgar's Maps, or however you pronounce that, and Don John can make you a map and much more with cool little details mixed in, and Fantasy Name Generator is very popular and is great for making NPC names in a pinch. However, if you want the content that your players find to be tailored to your world, do this. The players want to go into a bar? Okay, think of one fun detail about it or its owner. Anything. Maybe the bar is shabby, but homely, and it has an old-looking jukebox in the corner. Now, name it after this fun detail. It's now called the Hearth and Song. They approach the bartender? Okay, what are they? A dwarf? An android? Cool. Now add a fun detail. Let's say that they have hilariously big mutton chops. What about their name? You can't think of one? Well, people around here just call me Mutton, or Chops, or play I Spy. My name, people just call me Audrey, Ghost, Tal, Snake, and then, like all good bartenders do, they give you a quest. Especially if you walk into Weatherspoons, but what is it? Investigate the weird noises in the forest. Look into why people are going missing, and why cattle's going missing. It's a mystery. I have limited information for you, dear adventurer. But go forth. They get to the forest in question and come across a group of feral animals corrupted by the vampire's will, but what about the combat encounter? Well, while I have videos for combat, what about the map? Well, one tip, if you have any of that blank grid paper that people use for maps, then you could use that. But if you want your maps to actually look good, I would strongly encourage you to check out Snowy's Maps. Snowy's Maps has a Kickstarter out for these super versatile map books, and you can find the link in the description. I absolutely love these, and I literally use them every session, and I use them for this exact purpose, being able to just bust one out super quick and make any encounter have a map. No longer will you have to burn all your money on single-use paper and printer ink just to make your combats look okay, when you can have one of these maps and it looks fantastic and the book has all of these different maps to use. Also, as an added bonus, their Patreon is moving towards mini-quests and one-shot content for their patrons. Perfect for if your players zoom away from the main plot and you prefer running from a pre-made content book, rather than the stuff in your own sick mind. Whether you're improvising or you just want some awesome maps for the encounters that you have planned for, check out Snowy's Maps Kickstarter and their Patreon in the description. So, by knowing or making up your world, you can improvise the entire plot. By adding a fun detail, you can make up anything and make it cool. And you know of a bunch of ready-to-use products that you can get if you support the Kickstarter, do it now. But now, real quick, let's cover something that's quite odd to try and teach. Improvising dialogue. First up, don't worry, you don't have to be an actor or indeed a voice actor, because I'm here to tell you that you're probably worrying too much. If you want to improvise dialogue, just think like the NPC. It sounds simple, but if you're expecting some great secret, there isn't one. It's a role-playing game, not a book. And if someone says otherwise, they're probably trying to convince you that they're some sort of TTRPG wisdom oracle, or you need them to keep teaching you. When, I mean, think about it. If you were a player, you'd be doing the same thing. You watching this video right now, you can talk and string together sentences. Good job. So you can do the same thing for this imaginary person. But what would they say? You tell me. You made them. That means you know how they think and decide what they think. Just be true to who the character is and consider what information they know and whether they tell that information to the players. That's it. Eventually, you will play enough that you will truly be able to make a session on the spot. If people want to play, you can think back to this video. Take the weight off your shoulders. The story is as much, if not more, about the player choices than the prepared notes. Don't sweat it. You're doing great. Thank you for watching. I'm Ellis, and if you like these tips, click the video on screen to see how you can make any NPC, encounter, or location more interesting. I love you all, and I'll see you next Saturday.